onu. Yeah. Cha 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 cha. Igbo kwezu onu. Yeah. Oko nyamili nyamili. Koko nyamili nyamili. Koko nyamili nyamili. Koko nyamili nyamili. Ibole ibole. Ibobo ndamamihe. Ibole ibole. Ibobo ndamamihe. Ebulanyelu anamabara na ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye ofeke anamabara n'ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye ofeke Igbo bụ n'ndike ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike koko nyamini nyamini ụlọ nsọ gị Chukwu ka ị na-abata bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike anya bịawa ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike bịa o bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike bịa o bịakwute ya bịa o bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka ị na-akpọ gị bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike bịa o bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike bịa o bịakwute ya bịa o bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike ụmụ eluigwe yikọta n'otu bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike ka anyị jikọọ ofe ya ofufe Guardian bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike bịa o bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike bịa o bịakwute ya bịa o bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike Guardianism bụ ịhụnanya n'udo bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike butere anyị ụzọ kpetara anyị azụ bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike bịa o bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike bịa o bịakwute ya bịa o bịakwute ya bịakwute ya bịa zuru Ndewonu. Good morning to every one of you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, take a moment and pause so you can join us as we celebrate ChinEke today. Today is a very special day for us because it is the birthday of the king of Godian religion, the founder of Godian religion, Ihe Nketa. We're going to talk a little bit about him, and then we'll go into the topic of discussion today. Ihe Nketa Nke Mwute, living a legacy of misery. When we get caught up in other people's nonsense, we are living a legacy of misery. But anyway, before we get started, let me bring my co-host in, Dibias Ochoaja Yudi Onyoha.
Okay, Dibias.
I am
Yagazie, every day above ground is a good day. I am very happy. The possibilities that I see coming our way in this ministry is immense. And I'm so thankful for the hope and the blessings that has been bestowed upon us to do this program, and the blessing that I am convinced that people are taking away from this exercise.
Yes.
Yagazir to everybody out there. Yes, yes.
You know, there's some people may be a little late today because I had the time messed up. I had the time for 11 instead of 10. So
oh, Lord, have mercy.
That's okay. That's okay. Whatever they didn't catch, they can always go back and see it.
And see it. Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's not about the numbers. It's the fact that we do this and we leave it on the internet for them to look at their convenience. So we're doing ChinEke's work. We're not doing man's work. We're doing ChinEke's work, and ChinEke's work is do what you must do, and then let the rest of the world join. And you hope.
Yeah, because I was shocked. I was looking over here at the comments, and I didn't see anybody there. I'm going, what is going on? Where is Ukuna Charles?
I feel so bad because he's thinking,
oh my God.
It's okay. That's what I'm saying. The important thing is that I went back to the real time that we usually have it. And then what's going to happen is that everybody would either they're able to join or they will see it ultimately. They'll probably come on the second half, but they will see it anyway. So, you know, and then the other thing, I feel bad for our Nigerian audience because so much is going on in Nigeria. Oh my God. And people are having difficulty getting to work. People are walking.
Gas prices and all that. There's just no end to
it's
the
almost hitting 1,000. Almost hitting 1,000 a liter from 190 something. I think it was 190 something. First it was 65, then it was 129, then it went to 190 something. Now it's almost 700. So we are pushing for 1,000 a liter, and the problem is that it affects everything. It's not just a matter of people trying to get to work. It affects how their ability.
It cripples their whole economy.
It cripples the economy. Literally, it's crippled. People can open their shops. There's no electricity. There's nothing. I mean, you know, look. The bottom line is, if we don't use the mind that ChinEke gave us to select people who will meet the needs, our needs, then this is the outcome. And you want to feel badly for people who are suffering, but then you remember that there are some individuals who are in the same pool as the rest of Nigerians, and they're the ones who voted for this. So, you know, the hope is that things will, the courts will do what they need to do, and well, you know, what are you going to do? That you can always hope. You can always hope. So this is what's going on. So you have people who can't even get on an internet because there's no electricity. There's just so much going on, and I am hoping so desperately that things change. You know, so part of my libations today is just to really ask ChinEke to intervene on behalf. I'll have you stay on as we pour libations, Yudi, because I need to hear that he say. I need to hear it because that is so critical for me. My mindset right now, what's going on in my home country, is so disturbing. It's so disturbing. But you know what? ChinEke always has the last word. ChinEke always has the last word. So just when you think things are so bad, then you wake up and you find out, wait a minute, you know, the person in charge is still in charge. You know, those who think they're in charge, they're not in charge. ChinEke is in charge. So ChinEke will not allow our people to suffer any more than they've suffered already. They've suffered with the money issue. You know, the change of the Naira from old Naira to new Naira. They went through that nightmare. Now the nightmare of not being able to drive to work. Oh my God, you think about it.
How you say, the magician's sleight of hand.
Oh my God, it just happened.
That's what's going on. Yeah, boom, just like that. Different realities every day.
Every day.
And the realities that you experience is not like sleight of hand and the sun comes up. No, it's sleight of hand and it's dark. It's light of hand and it's darker. It's light of
Exactly.
hand and you're in a black hole. Can't get out of it until everything implodes. You know, the black hole sucks up everything and destroys everything. And Nigeria, with its Western democracy, with the interference of foreign agents, you know, that just lay waste to our resources, and then the effects of not paying attention to our primordial core, bad leadership, corruption. Everybody is after the naira. You now have in Nigeria, Daddy says, Ahain says, it is lazy as fair. Everybody's doing whatever is necessary to survive. It's not important what you do to survive anymore. Then those people that are at their wits' end, they now become desperate enough to go and steal some copper wire to try to sell, to try to feed themselves, feed their family. They are the ones under the gun. They're the ones being choked out by an angry mob, an angry community that is so frustrated with the lack of leadership and economic incentive that benefits everybody. The little guy who is suffering is the guy being choked out by the little guy. And all these guys at the top are just roaming around, giving directives, increasing the price of gas, you know, no electricity, no infrastructure, no nothing. And we're just there dealing with it. A people that don't want to be held at gunpoint can never be held at gunpoint. In the end, I still blame us.
Well, you know, the title of our program today is Living a Legacy of Misery. You know, Ihe Nketa Nke Mwute, living a life of misery. And so the question is, what do we do to get out of that? But before we get started, let's just pour libations. And again, I apologize to all those who thought that this program today is at 11. It's okay. Like I said earlier, we are going to certainly complete this program. And if you're not able to join us, then you can actually watch the video. Watch the video. Thank you, ChinEke. Thank you for this divine opportunity called today. We are the lucky few, and we understand that we are, because we do understand, ChinEke. There are people you are testing today. You are testing the spirit of many people, not just in Nigeria, here in the United States, where people are being told that who they are does not matter anymore, yet they're expected to pay taxes. That their children don't deserve to know who they are, but they have to pay taxes. That the people don't, their services are not needed, and yet society is crumbling because we are not honoring you. We're not honoring our fellow human beings. ChinEke, today we pour libations first and foremost to honor all of our ancestors to the east, to the north, to the south, wherever we are is where our ancestors are. Place in our minds those things that are priority to you, ChinEke. What is the priority that we should know? You say, tell us how to go about it. We ask for those things that will establish divine order in this life that you have given us. ChinEke, please. We ask that you remove those thoughts and habits and attitudes which create fear and keep us from being in alignment with your will, that keep us from selecting people that will be there to do your will on our behalf. ChinEke, make us see what role we are playing in our own discomfort. He said, we pour libation and we ask to see things through your eyes according to your law. ChinEke, take away every thought, want, unconscious and conscious urge that can place us on the treadmill of pain and confusion. This we can see. This is evident that we are not where we are supposed to be, and that we have a role to play. But ChinEke, let us acknowledge it so that we don't make the same mistakes over and over. He said, fill our minds with your will, your way, your desire for us today. What do you want us to do? Who do you want us to be today? ChinEke, we ask you to help us see all things from a divine perspective today, perspective of love and peace and joy. We ask that you guide us to act accordingly. ChinEke, please, we ask you to in accordance with the ancestors' will, to stand in front of us, behind us, beside us, under us, and keep protecting us as we move through this experience that you have given us called life. Obaside Obioma Olodumare Obangiji Katonda Nyemi Osi Vuzilele. We ask you to please hear the voice of our members here. Hear the voice, the words, the thoughts of guardians everywhere, of chiefs everywhere, of human beings everywhere. And for all the members who are here, if I do not call your name specifically, know that all the prayers that we have today includes you. For all the women in the world today, we ask for ChinEke's protection over your minds, so that you will be free from all those things that you have been conditioned to think that you cannot do. You've allowed yourself to be deceived into believing that you're not good enough, smart enough, old enough, young enough to do them, when indeed it is part of your legacy, part of your heritage, the blessing from ChinEke, he said. For all the men in this world, in our communities, in this forum, we ask for unity. We want you to free your heart from the fear that someone could stop you or harm you, because you are powerful beyond measure. For all the children, ChinEke, we ask to free their minds from any self-imposed limitations of age, color, or gender. Let them hear the truth always. Let them discard things that don't benefit them. Somebody say. For all of our community, we pray for freedom from harmful things that we love, that we do, in spite of the fact that these things are not good for us. And you know who you are in the community doing things that is not good for the community. ChinEke, today, please free us from those kinds of people. Freedom is the key to our survival, ChinEke. Free us today from mental slavery. We call our nations today on behalf of every last one of us, not to allow anything or anyone to confine or define us. May we begin the process of defining ourselves, for therein lies our freedom and therein lies our power. And I'm going to ask us to call out the names of our ancestors, those who have made it to the ripe old age of 80. Say,
Ngozi Nwosa.
He say,
Dada Nwaboso.
He say,
Jomo Kenyatta.
Say, Nelson Mandela. He say, Rosa Parks. He say, McLeod. He say, all the great African kings and queens who lived their lives trying to help humanity, their people. All the great Black African Americans who fought for the well-being of their communities, who reached the right old age of 80, he said. All the ancestors of the world that fit into your own category, whoever you may be.
Alvin Peabody.
He say. And we ask you at this point to make noise in however way you can on behalf of the ancestors. And for me, I shall clap.
All of them, ChinEke, I nekele gị, onye kere ụwa, I nekele gị.
Yes, I nekele gị. It is so wonderful that we are here today. And I think for me, that is what is so important, is that we acknowledge the benefit, the joy. There are so many people who are not here today. When I step out there, I try not to put my shoes on. I just feel the energy of the ancestors. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you're just anchored. If you think
when I wake up in the morning, yes.
You think of them and you just feel so anchored
and powerful.
And when you don't, you're just like a potted plant, whatever the wind blows, But if you stand on the knowing of the ancestors,
your primordial core, You're standing in your truth. There's nothing like it.
Standing in your truth. And people
Nothing
don't
like
understand. It's not about you hating anybody. It's
No.
not about that. It's about you trying to remind your people that you too have relevance in this world. Your ancestors did. You know, one of our dear members sent me pictures of Africans celebrating in the costumes and the masks and all that somewhere, I guess in somewhere in America somewhere. And the question was, what are they celebrating? Because once they are done, what do? On Sundays, they don
someone else's cloak.
Someone else's picture. See, if you don't accept the power within, if you don't accept your powerful spirit, all these things you're showing that you're African, that's just not, you're showboating. That has nothing to do with your reality, because your reality is that you don't accept you. And you get so bent out of shape when somebody says something.
You're your own worst enemy.
Huh?
You're your own worst enemy.
Yeah, when somebody says something, you know, it becomes a problem for you to understand that, yes, these things about you are important. It's not just about showing off your clothing, showing off all of that. It's not all about that. It's about, at the end of the day, these are all part of me, but I still see the Creator as somebody that looks like me.
Yes.
You know, if indeed that we are created in the image of God, as we say, then it makes sense that God looks like us. So when we do a lot of parading of cultural expressions, but we leave out the spiritual, the most powerful aspect of our culture. The most powerful aspect of who we are is not our clothing. It's a colorful component of it. You see what I'm saying? It's not our dancing.
The clothing is born out of who you are.
Yes.
Not the other way around. The clothing don't make you. The clothing is born out of who you are, your culture, your spirituality.
Yes.
Your primordial core is what, brings about the kind of clothing you wear for any culture, not just ours.
That's right. So anywho, so that I appreciated the member. I don't want to call the name because I don't know if she wants me to call her name. So I don't always assume that people just want me to disclose who they are and what comments they made. But it was a member, and I appreciated the comment that she made, because it was very true. It was very true. And here's what Akachi has said, which is very true. This is what she said. She says, when you liken yourself to your colonizer, you become self-colonizing and a colonizer to your people.
Absolutely.
Hey,
that's the result of it.
I've said it any better than that. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
And it does not mean that if you love yourself, you're necessarily hating anyone.
No.
It just means you are speaking truth to power. You are looking in front of ChinEke and you're saying to ChinEke, you did not make a mistake. I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And until we can embrace all that we are, ChinEke is just sitting there staring. When you wake up, let me know. That's why we're still running around in circles using other people's ideas and can't seem to achieve anything.
Yeah.
Look at our nations trying to emulate political machinery that has nothing to do with us. It keeps failing. It keeps failing. Would it ever do well? Well, it's not even doing well in the country that we're borrowing from. It's not even working there.
No,
it's not. And if it's not working, how's that going to work for you? So what we're talking about is not about you hating anyone. Please. Hate is a horrible word. Hate is not a healthy way to be. You don't hate people who are trying to survive just like you are. The problem is, are you allowing them to survive on your head? Are you going to stand up and say, put your dukes up and say, wait, no, not on me. Not on my child. Not on my mama. Not on my daddy. Not on my wife. Are you going to fight for your freedom? And when I say fight, you don't have to use guns. If you can free your mind, there is no gun that will conquer you. All a gun can do is take your life, but it will not take your significance in this world. Yeah. Let me bring Dibias in. Oh, is it?
Hey, no. Forgive me for my long absence.
But it's okay.
Well, you know, when people get rich, they forget the little guy. So you just forgot because your wealth is rising exponentially.
Ndola say anyị bịa za ha oku na ọ tela anyị bịara ha meeting. Ndo nwere m ga-akpọ m ha sị m ha sọmọnụ m so m bịa m za ha oku ma je za ha oku aga m ebe ahụ oku ka a na-emefushi.
Are you walking to work these days? Are you joining the crew of workers? Nigerians have become health conscious because they can't use their cars. What is going on?
Well, I'm lucky. We are lucky. We are still using I'm living on campus, so I can trek to my office. It's not more than a 10 minutes trek from my house to the office. So, and all this, the children, they are going to school. Their school is just a stone throw within campus here. Everything is within campus here. So, for that, we are still, for those of us who are on campus, we are not feeling it that much. But for those in town, in fact, what we have devised now in the department, and it was adopted in the Senate, that was on Thursday, not officially adopted, but it was tacitly done because the VC advised that HODs and deans should make their workers who are coming from town to alternate, maybe come 2 or 3 times a week.
Man, that is something else, man. We have devolved into this kind of, you know, apart from the war, I'm just using the 70s as a litmus test.
All right.
From 1970 to 1979, 1980, the difference between Nigeria now and Nigeria then, in terms of the government caring for its people, it's like night and day. I can't even marry both of them together. It's like 2 different countries.
Sure.
You know, what happened to the mindset, the leadership? How did we go from people that are trying to build a nation to people that are doing everything possible to destroy it? It's sad.
Well, it's just like what you are saying, what I met you and Dibias talking about. It's a symbol and the best example of a people who have abandoned their own spirituality and culture. And then we are trying to subsume our culture within the confine, the cocoon of other people's purview, other people's pride. So we are not growing along our own trajectory. So it's bound to happen. And it is happening fast with Nigeria because this is where the center of Black consciousness seems to be on the high. So for me, I am looking at Nigeria as a verb of departing and collapsing so fast from the abnormality that we have adopted. Because I remember 2005 when I went to a conference in Cape Coast, Ghana, and somebody asked me, said, what is wrong with Nigeria? So, we are moving faster away from the abnormality that Africa has adopted. And since we are moving farther away, the crisis in Nigeria will seem to be higher. Because, and I told them that all the systems we have adopted in Africa, Black Africa, will collapse. And until they collapse, we will need to go back to necromancy, if that means going back to our spirituality and culture and begin from where we were supposed to have begun.
Yeah.
Until that happens, we will keep experiencing this crisis. So to sum up this particular talk now, we in Nigeria, we have witnessed where people have thrown all manner of ethics, morality, abnormality. We've thrown it into the wind, and the worst of us are now. It cannot be worse than this. That those in power, like Fela said in CBB, Confucian Breakbone, every leader we get, which one we get, we never steal. Which one we get, we know they steal. Which one we go get, we no go steal. So we are the worst of it. We have reached the last of it. And what we are waiting for is the new beginning. Because democracy in Nigeria and Africa is long dead. And we are just celebrating the funeral of democracy. That's what we're celebrating.
Oh my God!
You say that's a mouthful and right on point. I mean, it's absolutely. You know, I was thinking about stuff. I was watching a video, then I was thinking about stuff, which of course, you know, we know. Ahine talks about it. You know, we all know about it. You know about it. Dibias and okay, Dibias. So the ChinEke has male and female essence, and each person, because you know, this brings back to just the importance of religion in politics. You know, people say there's a separation of church and state. No, there's never been a separation of church and state. It's always been that way. It just depends on whose church you adhere to.
Oh, sure.
Each one of us is born with a chi. That is your God angel. That is the representative of ChinEke in you.
Sure.
You don't seek salvation. You don't seek blessing outside of yourself. It is that chi that is part of your ikenga that guides you in your life. There are certain spiritual tenets that we as Africans, and this is common among just about every sub-Saharan African community, has this belief system in different names.
Yes.
We are all imbued with essence of ChinEke in each and every one of us as a guide to conduct.
Yeah.
Behavior, and as a gateway to your destiny.
Yeah.
You focus here.
Before we go into all of that, Yudi, because that's part of our conversation. I want us to celebrate. Today is a birthday celebration of Ihe Nketa Nke.
Yes.
Your Baja himself. So I have this little video. I have this little video I want to play, and then we're talking about him a little bit. Then we go into the focus of today.
Sogechim. Yo, yo. Ahaya, ahaya, Oro Sogechim. Wakareke topo. Haheya, Omeno Mabuno Nyosi. Omeno Mabuno Nyoro. Omeno Mabuno Nyoga. Namonya Buno Nyeke. Omeno mabuno nyosi. Omeno mabuno nyoro. Omeno mabuno nyoga. Namo yabuno nyike.
Whoa. Yes. I remember those days. I just do. When he was up to the UN, you know, I mean, let me tell you something, man. I know that everybody has their own narrative about their father and their mother, their parents. We all love our parents more than we love anybody else's parents, as long as those parents did what they were supposed to do as parents. But I got to tell you, Nketa Nke no, they were one in a million. To be able to ground us as their children in African spiritual beliefs, culture, tradition, the utmost appreciation of our core as Africans, as Umburo people, as humans. To me, I feel like I am the richest man in the world because the level of confidence that they imbued in me, that I feel personally, it doesn't matter what you think your academic stature is. I will stand in front of you and we will argue till the sun goes down, and you can never put me under the table. I have such love and appreciation for my Africanness, for my people. I am so proud to be a Black man. I am so proud to be an African. And I thank Ihe Nketa Nke, my mother, for being so strong amongst all the opposition back in Nigeria, from the Christians and from the Muslims and from whoever, from everything foreign that tried to silence them, that tried to silence Ihe. And for this man to pull himself from the bootstraps all the way to the United Nations and made a permanent member to represent a spiritual philosophy from Africa, something that has never been done and something that has never been duplicated ever since he rose to those heights. And for me to be the person that inherited this legacy, that I'm able to pass it down to my children, that I'm able to sit here on this program with you, Dr. Chido's here. I am so appreciative for the legacy that my father has left for me, the family, and for people of African ancestry all over the world, that even you, Dibias Chido's here, is a benefactor of this legacy. And I feel that it is because of this legacy, it's because of his work that brought you to us. And we thank you for being part of this new awakening. Yagazie.
Thank you. Yagazie.
Yeah, that's well said. Well said. Because I got used to Gordianism from when we were in university, undergraduate. In fact, we read about Gordianism philosophy. Then my supervisor for both my first degree and PhD, now distinguished Professor Na, attended a conference, I think about 2 or 3 conferences with Nketa Nke. and he spoke a lot about him. And then I was now surprised when I would speak with Dr. Sydney. Then he gave me a contact. It happened to be the contact of Dibia, and that's how I came in. So it is a spirit leading us. And I told him, I said, I am tired of these Eurocentric, Asia-centric African study centers in Africa. I want a forum where I will teach African studies from the African indigenous perspective, the insider perspective. That's how he gave me the contact for Dibia. And that's how I came in. And so, like you said, it is a spirit leading us on. And we're on.
Yes, sir. Well
Yes,
said.
I just want to share that song was by my sister, his first daughter. You know Obi Onyoha, the great Obi Onyoha. That is one of her songs dedicated to her.
That's I think she's an archaeologist or so.
Yeah, she has a PhD in archaeology.
Yeah, she was on the program once. That's last year to present a paper.
Yes, that's her. So that's her song. So anyway,
wow.
And it's going to be. Akachi did ask if those pictures will be on the website. Yes, absolutely. You did. Please, would you take that video and make sure
I'll put it all that together and
so people can see it. So anyway, which in celebration of Ahai is quite frankly a good foundation for the discussion of Ihe Nketa Nke Mwute, living a legacy of misery. We need to move ourselves away from living a legacy of misery. We're remembering Ahai because he did not live a legacy of misery. He did not allow other people to dictate how he thought, what he thought about who he is, what he thought about who his people are. My dad always said, ChinEke created you to be happy, contented, and ambitious. And so when he sees you not doing all that you can do or not being all that you can do, he will ask you that. Are you aware that you're supposed to be happy, that you're supposed to be contented, that you're supposed to be ambitious, not slouching, not sitting around worrying about what you can or cannot do? You know, you may never achieve the objectives that you, as you allow others to use you to absorb their sad lives, taking advantage of your kindness. And we people, African people, we're very kind. We're very kind people. We're sweet. Our nature is very sweet. So we become a very convenient packaging for other people's constant dependency and unwillingness to solve their own problems. How did they solve the problems of cotton picking in America? Was it not on the backs of African Americans? If you can solve your own problem, why would you need to buy slaves to do the work? That's you being unwilling to solve your own problem by using your own skills. Instead, you use someone else, and the person that you use to do your work, you say they're inferior. How am I inferior to you when I did the work that you couldn't do? We became mired in their drama. I'm telling you, there was so much drama. If you're not looking at it, that is people's drama. The slave owners, that was their drama. We got drawn into it. We got mired into it. And I will remind you, you're not inferior to anyone that you had to help to build. Where's the inferiority? If you're convinced that you're inferior when it was your power, when it was your strength that was used to lift other people up, you lose sight of who you are and you become entombed in their perpetual inadequacies, which they take out on you.
Yeah. We
as a people, we have developed problems. Much of it is physical and mental. And because the physical, as a psychologist, I can tell you there's nothing worse than mental problem, mental dependency on others. The perpetrators of your mind will now want to help you solve the problems because they need you. They need you to stay in perpetual need of their services, of their thoughts. And as long as you buy into it, you will never heal. You will never come out of it. So at some point, you got to shake yourself out. As hard as it may be, it doesn't mean you hate them. It simply means you're trying to survive. Survival means shaking it off. Become independent. I never forget Dad always telling me that. Why is your face frowned up? Whose report are you believing? Whose report are you buying? Who told you what that you have embraced as reality? It is so easy to be lured into the storm of other people's drama. And the people's drama that we as African people have been drawn into are those who have subjugated us into slavery, taken from us, continue to do so. And we wonder why we're not progressing. Sometimes all these things that happen to us, my brothers and sisters, it happens without even a thought. We're so used to it that when we see it, we don't even see anything wrong. You know how you can engage in conversation with someone? Once they share their story, you forgot how they caused their story to be that, and boom, you're now a part of that story. We have become a part of the enslavement of African mind. We, African people.
Yes.
You see, now we are voicing our opinion, not based on fact, but the unsolicited advice that was given to us when they came and took from us. Boom, we're in their drama. Sometimes now it doesn't even matter as I watch my people. It doesn't matter who created the drama. We just want to be in it. And then we ask now what do we do now? Now we're in it. We allow ourselves to be drawn into other people's drama. We need to learn as African people, as human beings, period, to step back. That's the most difficult thing when you talk to our people about where we are spiritually. It is a difficult thing. It's challenging. It is in my nature, the nature of cheers, to want to help others. But you know what? Sometimes we have to let people take responsibility for their own issues at hand. If things are not going well for you because of what you believed, now I'm not going to lose sleep because you don't want to change. I can't fix the world. We can't fix the world. People need to start learning to fix themselves, know how to participate in their own healing. But we also need to know when to participate or when to be quiet and just listen. I hear all this religious stuff. You read it every day. I hear the very people who are spreading all those pictures of the images of God looking at European and everything. They are the same people that will turn around and say the European did this and did that. That's people with drama. And sometimes you're inclined to want to respond. I don't respond to those things. Once you send me pictures of this, the power, the biggest power in the world, not to look anything like you or not to look anything like your ancestors, but you want to come. I mean, you're sending me your avatar is showing me that God looks like something that's totally different from you, but you want me to give you money. Your child can't go to school. How is that my problem? We can't change the world. We have to establish a protocol, protect our boundaries, mental boundaries. People are full of drama. Our people are full of drama. It's challenging enough, ladies and gentlemen, to be who we are without getting drawn into someone's drama. All we can do as cheers is put the truth out there. But it's drama to try and follow somebody on Facebook or wherever to argue with them. What are you arguing? Don't argue with people. Don't get into their drama. If somebody is not making sense, that's drama. You're being drawn into a life of misery because you think you got to change the mind of these people who are not thinking. So our role is to know when to stop participating. Stop participating. Put the message out there and step back and remind yourself that there are people here who need you. And when you run into such people who don't have the drama, talk with them. But once you start seeing all the drama, mind your own business. There's a time to mind your own business. Become aware of the type of relationships you must have with humanity. Don't be drawn into people's drama. It's unhealthy for you. People have strokes over the fact that they were fighting for somebody who didn't deserve to be fought for. As a cheers, I'm being honest with you. All of us who are cheers, if there's one thing you can do for yourself, focus on being all that you're supposed to be. Share information, but if you see too much drama, stay away from it. And people engage in all those drama because they're not comfortable, they're not happy with themselves. So they want to draw you in. And then you get into it. So, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as my dad has said over and over and over, try not to be pulled into another person's emotions and drama. Don't engage in their gossip or anything else that may be hurtful to you or someone else. There's that old saying, misery loves company. And I always say, misery does not need your company. There are people that will stop at nothing to try and draw you into their misery. And that's why they want to argue, you believe in
devil.
Your
satanic people.
They call you the devil worshippers. They call you all kinds of stuff. They are people with drama. If you know who you are, you don't get sucked up in their drama. You just share. And after you've shared, my brothers and sisters, keep it moving. Misery does not need your company. If you want to be holy, if you want to be as ChinEke, then you don't get caught up in drama. We say, oh, I'm a wasa, you did not be so.
Mm-hmm.
We got 7 lifetimes. You want to waste it in somebody's misery? For you to achieve your 7 lifetimes and enter the state of a Marachi, you have to focus on building up your closeness to ChinEke, being as spiritually pure as you possibly can. Share. I always say share with others. But once those others are not paying attention and are trying to draw you into their drama by trying to tell you that the way you believe is no good because African spiritual tradition is Ekwensu and all that nonsense, you know what? That's just way too much drama. You don't have to explain a doggone thing to them. Keep it moving. Now that there's a song we say, Adimocha nimo bimdi kwanso nime mo gini geme kandendo gari garachi mozi. I'm pure in my heart. As far as I know, as far as God continues to give me breath, I know my role here is to serve the Creator. And the way I serve the Creator is to give information, but at the same time, keep myself away from things that bring me down, that tear me up, or put me down and tell me I'm not good enough. Those are people's drama. Don't get caught in it. If you're good enough, if you look in that mirror, you are the image of ChinEke. ChinEke is in you. You are good enough. You don't have to be drawn into anybody's drama to feel fulfilled. And on that note, I'll let Dibias take it over, and then we go to Dibias UD.
Yeah. From my own point of view, I think what we are suffering from today is simply one word: alienation. Mm-hmm. And this alienation is simply what you had started with. the estranged African personality, dissociated African psyche. And it's dissociated because we are not keyed into our foundations. Our ideologies today are not rooted in our spirituality. Yes. And that is why I quarrel so much with the ideologies that our nationalists had come up with. When I did my PhD, I had to study all the ideologies from no-welfarism to democratic socialism, conscientism, African humanism, Ujamaa, and so on and so forth, negritude. And I discovered one thing about all of them. The closest for me was Nyerere, but he left out the thing that made communalism, that made capitalism and socialism to be interwoven in African communalism, which is African spirituality. Once you want to run politics on Christian ideology or Islamic ideology, you are going to get into the problem of monism, reductionism, converting people from their original self to what else they are not. That is the nomenclature of Euro-Christian classical philosophy and Christianity. And that is the tradition of Islam and the Arabic culture. They must reduce you to their own mindset. If you are not reduced to their own mindset, they will canvass you, they will trouble you, they will bring psychological warfare, and if that does not work, they bring violence. Yes. They must find a way of subduing you.
Yes.
They must find a way of subduing one, and that is not our spirituality. That is why Black Africa did not produce vanquished states. What we produced were vassal states, states who pay tributes to the main state, and their independence was intact. So we don't invade people and invade their core, dislodge their spirituality. We leave people with their spirituality, their culture, their political administration. We leave it intact. All right? But if you read the Bible and read the Quran, to be conquered means to sack the spirituality of the people. And the first place they invade is the temple, because whatever is not in their own purview is unholy, is not sacred, is profane, and so should be eliminated, abolished. That is not our spirituality. So that is the problem that we have found in all the ideological system of our nationalists. And that's because they were educated by the Western scholars, unlike the Asian scholars like of the Indians, the Chinese, who first grew in their spirituality before they went to study Western philosophy, Western scholarship. And so, because they were groomed in their spirituality, just like you and Dibias, you are Dibia and Dibias, you were groomed in the tradition. Because you are groomed in your tradition, and so you are already within the African spirituality. And so when you relate with other civilizations, you know how to relate with them. Someone like me, though I came from behind, but it's because I studied metaphysics and the core of metaphysics, ontology. So whatever I do, I want to look at the core, the foundation, the spirituality of the people. So I know that secret. And so when I was looking at all of our nationalists, they made that mistake. In fact, there's a particular paper I submitted of recent talking about democracy in Africa. I made that point. That is the greatest blunder Nkrumah made. And Nkrumah is not alone in this blunder, what I call monumental blunder. All our nationalists missed it out. The only person I found that did not miss it out is ChinEke Onyoha. And if he was not brought into the core, and so you don't blame him, because as soon as they got independent, they thought our spirituality was obsolete, a cake. They were on this fast speed of trying to catch up with the West, but they forgot that when the old man falls to the ground, he looks behind. And when the little child falls, he keeps looking forward. Because they didn't look backwards. They didn't see the relevance of African spirituality, that modernization must be planted on your spirituality. And that is why today, there is nothing like decolonization that has happened in Africa. Africa and Latin America are the only two places where decolonization has not taken place. What is happening is continued westernization, continued Chinesization, Indianization, Asianization. So the confusion in our heads has even gone beyond Nkrumah's triple heritage. It is now multiple heritage or heritages. And the only way to solve that problem is to solve the problem of alienation, key back to your spirituality, and then from there you have a standpoint to relate with others. And so you now practice the Igbo saying, Agogeto Gelibea. That means if you really want to grow, you must learn how to relate with others and take what is best in them and then refine or readapt yourself, recreate yourself within your own spirituality. That way you keep expanding. They will.
They will. Thank you. Dibia, good points. Dibia, UD.
I mean, Dr. Dibia Chidozie is making it difficult for me to even add anything to this.
He's on point. He is on point.
I mean, after that one, I surrender. But let me just add to what he said, because there's really, he just really said a mouthful, and so did you, okay, Dibia, before you handed the mic to Dibia Chidozie. First of all, the idea of African spirituality being the spawn of the devil is European, but unfortunately, we're the ones that have now carried that narrative and moved ahead with it to impugn our own credibility, right? And bastardize ourselves. And it is this bastardization that is at the core of the misery that Africa is going through today. Now, as you already know, Stephen Biko says that the greatest tool in the hands of the oppressor is what? The mind of the oppressed.
Yes.
Once they got your mind, they got you.
Yes.
And as Dibia Chidozie had mentioned before, they try on a minimal level to convince you to come to their own point of view. And when that doesn't work, the next thing is they will institute a policy of blood and iron. They will force you to see the world the way they do, whether you like it or not, and they will kill enough of you and wipe up generations of people. Remember, this exercise didn't happen in 24 hours. It didn't happen in 1 year. It happened through generations, and through these generations of incessant violence, they wiped out everything, including institutions that we use to run our government and our social structure. They wiped out everything: literature, places of worship, everything pertaining to the opulence and the governing of the black man and woman in Africa was destroyed. That's why today people have no idea that pyramids existed in Eastern Nigeria called Nsude Pyramid, but that's for another show altogether. We, as Africans, in this misery that we find ourselves in, we now function from a position of lack, and we act as if we never contributed anything to civilized behavior in all areas of human endeavor, from science to literature, government, leadership, what have you, architecture, all that kind of good stuff. We act as if we had societies that didn't function until the Arab and the European showed up on our shores with the Bible and the Quran in tow. They created the misery that exists in Africa, in all global African communities. And then after creating it, we find ourselves in a position where we're looking at the same people that created that misery to save us. How is that possible? for somebody who created your misery to save you from anything when they've already wiped out your primordial core and any vested of identity that you have. It's gone. And your identity as a people comes straight from your spiritual culture. Religion is the father and mother of all human societies. This is how societies are built. This is how nations are formed. Forming a nation requires serious, educational process that has everything to do with your primordial spiritual core, because all human systems comes from religion. And to build a nation, you have to build systems. The Roman civilization was built from a spiritual system, religious system, part of the religious history, paganism, coined from the word paganus. Europe, Christianism was built, the European culture was built under that spiritual culture of Christianism, which they manufactured and mixed up a whole bunch of Persian, Egyptian, pagan spiritual laws and rules to come up with some of the tenets that you see in Christianism today. The Japanese culture, Japanese history, the Japanese nation was formed based on Shintoism, India, Hindu, Sikhism. Chinese people didn't really come together until they found a national religion in Buddhism, even though Confucianism and Taoism are really primordial to them. But Buddhism was made as a Chinese religion by the king, the emperor at that time, because he loved what Siddhartha, the proponent of Buddhism, was talking about. The greatest weapon against imperialism is your religious culture. There's a lot of nations in this world who probably didn't go through as much as we did as Africans, dealing with the transatlantic slave trade and what have you, and the level of colonization and just the inhumane treatment that was imposed on Africans, particularly when you talk about places like Congo and the Belgian king, and just the atrocities that happened over there. A lot of nations didn't go through that, at least not in terms of modern slavery. What happened to the African? But countries like India and China that were colonized were able to maintain a level of dignity, because regardless of what happened to them, maybe not to the extent of how it went down in Africa and the transatlantic slave trade, maintained a level of dignity by embracing and holding on to their spiritual culture and their traditions. I remember this story that I had read where the British were trying to force the Chinese to cut their long hair. And the Chinese people simply told them, this long hair, you know, the long hair in the back, they grow it all the way to their tailbone. This long hair is our identity. So you're going to have to do a whole lot of killing. You're going to have to kill a whole lot of us to stop us from wearing that hair. And the British people just couldn't do it, because the level of commitment that the Chinese people had to this culture, this tradition, was so overwhelming that if you started to kill them, there was the purpose of owning them as your slaves or colonizing a people that don't exist anymore, because you kill them all because they refuse to obey you. Nation formation has spiritual culture at its core. The misery that we face in Africa, as Dibias has mentioned, is because of this lack of understanding that our primordial core is imperative. It is important. You cannot build a castle on sand. All this Western experiment that we've been doing in Africa with Western democracy, the parliamentary system, the whatever it is that we're doing now, the new one is the LGBT that is coming in to overwhelm us all and just rape us and deny us of who we are, things that are tolerable, how we handle anything that has to do with LGBT, blah, 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 blah. We are now going to be forced to do it the way the master wants us to do it. You cannot build a castle on sand. Our spiritual core is the basis for nation formation. It is the basis for nation development, and it is the basis for nation management. Formation, development, management. Three tenets of Pan-African thought process. And your spiritual culture is at the core of it. Without it, you cannot build a castle on sand. It will fall. The National Church of Nigeria was an attempt by Ihe Nketa Nke, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Oba of Benin, and so many other, great African leaders that fought for independence against the British, because they understood that independence was just not about taking the chains off your limbs, but you needed to take the chains off your mind so that you could understand the idea and the process involved in nation building, nation formation, nation building, and nation management. It was called the National Church of Nigeria and the Cameroons, and it existed all the way till 1962, when a whole lot of the membership dropped off, and then the Ido National Church, headed by the Oba Kenzwa II, the Oba of Benin, which you saw in the tribute to Ahai, merged with the National Church of Nigeria in 1962 to form Guardianism, interpreted in Igbo language as Chiism. It's one and the same. But in Chiism, we just feel like if you're going to talk about African spirituality, it has to have an African name. Islam, the traditional religion of the Japanese, doesn't have a Chinese name. The traditional spirituality of the Chinese does not have an Arabic name. So we in Guardianism here in the Americas decided that it is better to reflect African traditional spirituality in its naming. So when you say Guardianism, you're saying Chiism is one and the same. God, Chi. ISM is just a philosophy. That's all it means. It's one and the same thing. So to make a long story short, we have the right formula in the beginning. But somewhere along the line, once we figured we have overcome, once we got the chains off, we forgot about the mental aspect of it. And this is the battle that Ihe Nketa has fought all through his life, to remind us that it is not enough to get the chains off your limbs and around your neck, but you needed to get the chains off your head so that you are healthy mentally to be able to form, build, and manage a nation. That's my 2 cents.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I think that the whole purpose of spirituality is to empower the individual. Chiism is empowering. We're not here, and if you guys have heard that, then you misheard us. The purpose of Chiism is to remind you that you have the power to change your condition in the world. It is not up to anyone, but up to you. When I attended University of North Alabama, I was lost, totally lost. The people thought I was strange because I came from Africa. It was interesting that many of them didn't know anything about Africa. And then we had some individuals who wanted to remind me they weren't even from Africa. They don't even, we're not from that jungle. They're not jungle bunnies, and that's those kinds of things I was called. Okay. And I had moments that I sat by myself at the mezzanine to eat because nobody wanted to sit with me. Now, it has nothing to do with me personally, because I was always elegantly dressed. I always tried to represent Africa. So I was dressed in my regalia. I was just, people were taking pictures of me and all that, but they didn't want to sit with me because they too have been conditioned that anything that's dark-skinned is not good enough. No matter how beautiful I looked, I wasn't good enough. So, and then of course, sadly, the African Americans themselves, they stared at me because what they've heard about Africa is negative. Not all of them, certainly, but most of them in the school. They didn't want to take the time to come know me. They themselves had been blinded by what they've been told about Africans. We're voodoo. You don't want to be negative. If I do any little thing, they say, "Oh, voodoo." I mean, it was amazing. So for me, it was a bit miserable until I met this gentleman. He was Muslim. He was a professor, Professor Abdul Hadi. I think I've mentioned him before. And as I sat there looking all lost and lonely and wishing and crying, I want to go back to my country. I want to go back to my parents and all. And he will come and sit next to me. He says, "Owa, do you know who you are? You're Nigerian. You're an African." Huh? I said, "Well, that's why I'm having a problem right now that I'm African. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
He says, "In this school, the most brilliant students are from Africa because they have to work twice as hard as everybody else. Most of them are not on scholarship. Most of them, their parents have to work very hard to send them here. So they don't come here to waste time like some individuals who have everything. Some of them, their parents are paying for them. Some of them, they have grants. Some of them, you make your father proud. You make your mother proud. You work. Forget. And he stayed with me. He didn't want to let me go. He just started reminding me of what Dad said. The only thing greater than you is the sun. So these people, all of a sudden, that I felt so bad because of the names they were calling me, I didn't see them as the sun anymore. I started paying attention, remembering what Dad said. If you're not the sun, you have nothing over me. And that's when I started kicking the books. I started paying attention. And this gentleman from I think he was from, well, he's from the Middle East somewhere, I don't remember exactly, reminded me that you are more powerful than you because you're trying to get validated by these people. You don't need their validation. Your people have already validated you because they have a reputation as some of the most brilliant people here. And you have to act accordingly. Anything, he said, and I'm not kidding you, anything less, he said, is unacceptable. It's un-Nigerian. Wow. In other words, the power that was given to me by the Most High, I was not using it. I was waiting for people to, you know what I'm saying? I was getting caught up with other people's nonsense instead of focusing on who I am and what I can achieve. So for us, now I want to play this video because it talks about our life, who we are, how we must be in charge of our lives and not take seriously other people's definition of who we are. This is where we go wrong. This is where Black people fail because we always want to be validated. We will believe in our things. We will wear our clothing. We will do our dance. We will wear the mask. We have it all over our house. But when we step out of here, we're Europeanized. Just so we will be embraced and tolerated and accepted. Whereas we are already accepted by the Most High. ChinEke has already accepted you. Why would ChinEke build use you as a temple if you were not good enough? If we believe that ChinEke is perfect, why would ChinEke choose you to be the temple of his spirit, of her spirit. So we have to take charge of our lives and not get tangled up in other people's drama. So I want to play this video for you. It's not a long video, it's just it's short, but I think it says quite a bit.
Yeah, guys, here indeed.
Yes, your life is the train, my brothers and sisters, and you are the conductor.
Yes,
you are the conductor. Don't let anybody along the way. You're gonna run into all kinds of people, like I said earlier, with their dramas and they want to suck you in. Don't wait for such people to enter your train. Let them stay right there at the curb. Keep your train moving. Keep your train steady. Keep it clean. Make sure that you don't have anything but what you need in it. People and the drama don't belong in your life. Misery does not need you and should not be on your train. This is a journey that you're taking. Take that journey as God's gift to you, ChinEke's gift to you. What a gift! When how many people go to the internet or newspapers and see the obituaries? These are people whose trains have stopped, and many of them allowed all kinds of mess into their train, into their mind. That train is your mind. And they ended their lives never really realizing their potential. Don't be distracted. If you're a chaste, you got power. Walk in holy boldness, I always say. So you mess up now and then, so what? But the important thing is that you pick up. The important thing is that you don't let anybody convince you that that mistake you made means that you can't go any further. No. You're going to fail so many times in life. They're going to find so many people that will tell you can make it. Keep going. You fail one time, God was on the door. You fail another time, God was on the door. You fail another time. As sooner or later, as long as you have breath, you are going to win. Never allow other people's drama to convince you that you can't do it. Because you're black, because you're short, because you're tall, because you're fat, because you're skinny. You just understand that you are good enough before ChinEke. All you have to do is just keep it moving. Don't get distracted.
Yeah, I love that concept. It's a concept of the train. The train has two major segments, no matter how long it is. The head engine and the wagon. Don't be the wagon, be the head engine.
Yeah.
Because the head engine is where everything about the train lies. It's just like the fish and the head. Don't be the tail of the fish, be the head of the fish. Because everything about the head is where lies the destiny. The destiny to find the destination. It is where lies the mind, the soul, and the spirit. It is the driver of the body, the wagon. Every other thing is attached to the head engine. And so the wagon is just like the body.
Yes.
But this body has to be kept well. That is why we have to be clean. We have to keep the body inside out clean. Live healthily so that we can accommodate our spirit to hit the sky, to space. In fact, there's no limit to what our minds can do if we realize ourselves. That's why if you know who you are, then you will know that you cannot trade who you are for any material essence. Of recent, I brought some Indian friends to teach philosophy of mind to the students so that the students will have a perspective, what I call the parapsychological aspects of the mind, what they call ESP and psychokinesis. So after that, I brought a Dibias to also teach them. And the students loved the Dibias approach compared to the Indians because the Indians more or less came to preach doctrine. And so I had to, after the Indians left, we had to analyze what the Indians had done the following week. And it's all about doctrine. That's not what we wanted. What we wanted is analysis of the power of the mind. So the third week, the Dibias came and he taught them all about ESP, the African approach. Then after enlightening them to ESP, he brought the pendulum and brought one of the students to practicalize using your mind to direct the pendulum, to swing whichever direction that you want. Then you realize the power of the mind. Immediately the students saw the power of the mind. And they now knew that the mind is just beyond what it is in the books. And the lesson there is that by the time immediately the Dibias left, I gave them tests. And the test I gave to them is they should make a comparison between HI, human intelligence, and AI, artificial intelligence. In fact, what these students came up with, I saw they were writing from their minds. And for the first time, I didn't see students trying to look for books, notebooks, textbooks to copy from, doing giraffe method, trying to see what the other person, everyone wrote from their soul. And there were none less than 100 students in that hall.
Wow.
That is the best you can do. And that's why I told them, I said, I am not teaching you philosophy of mind from the textbook. I want to teach you who you are. And I purposely brought the African Dibias last because I know his depth and I know that he has done his PhD in philosophy and metaphysics ontology, where he used Alpha to peruse Kant, and he came up with a lot of faults in Kant philosophy, so much so that it was gazetted for a prize at the PG school. And so bringing them to teach them who they are and letting them know who they are from their own spiritual point of view made them, for the first time, they wrote a test without having to giraffe, looking for books, looking for notebooks and who to rely on. Then something occurred to me that the reason why there's so much cheating amongst our students, the reason why we seem not to have self-reliance is because we have not keyed into who we are. And we have to key into who we are within our own spiritual purview. Anything less than that will become copycats, mimicking. And mimicry, mimicry can never lead anybody anywhere. You can never do it better than the master. You have to be a master yourself.
They will, absolutely. Yudi.
I mean, you guys are on point today. You just hitting it out of the ballpark. It is true. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about. Dibias here had mentioned earlier the idea that we have to knock the castle down and rebuild it. But this time, you have to rebuild it with a solid foundation, which is lacking in our global African community, particularly in the motherland. It is difficult. You know, you have two sets of miserable Africans. Misery loves company. That's the topic of today. but ministry doesn't need any company. You have two miserable schools of Africans. Diasporan Africans are miserable and blaming their conditions on the Africans in the motherland. And the Africans are miserable, hating on the diasporan Africans, calling them less African than they are. And because of a colonized mind, forget that these Africans in diaspora came from the motherland. Irish American and the Irish man in Ireland are one and the same. The only difference is one of them finds himself in the Americas. It doesn't make him less Irish.
Yes.
Maybe due to some, maybe the Irish person there, you know, went and got married to, you know, a German in America. And now you got the mixture of Irish and all that. But as far as heritage is concerned, the Irishman who is pure Irish in the Americas is the same Irishman in Ireland. There's no difference. The African American, the British black, the black man in Mongolia, if your genesis began in Central Africa, you're black. Peter Tosh, no matter where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. We're one and the same. Jamaicans hate Haitians, treat them as if they are less than, but Haitians and Jamaicans are the same people. They all came through the Atlantic slave trade and ended up in two different areas with two different experiences, all of them not beautiful. But somehow we forget the history and we start looking at ourselves based on where we are located. So you have the miserable African American, miserable because of his condition, who is now as miserable as the African in the motherland, miserable about their condition, both of them suffering from the same poison emitted on them by the European. You have two schools of misery. We need to knock it down and rebuild, and we have to rebuild based on understanding that we are one and the same. That is the first foundational argument. We, Africans globally, need to recognize that we're one and the same. We share the same history. We share the same spiritual culture. And if we want to build this African nation, we just can't build it just in the motherland alone. We have to build it globally. We just have to. If you look at any of, the Chinese community here is so strong in America. Why? Not because they're Americans, but because of their strong lineage to the Chinese community in China, to the Chinese nation. Is one and the same, and they tout our culture. The culture you see in China, come to Chinatown in America, is one and the same. There's no difference. But unfortunately, for people of African ancestry, you go to different parts of the world, you see something totally different. The Caribbean culture doing their own thing. There's a place in Colombia. That's the only African community that I know, that I've read about. It's in Colombia. They say, and they've been there since slave trade and all that stuff, the transatlantic slave trade. They've been there forever, 400 years. They've been there. If you go over there, you will think you're in Nigeria. Everything. I mean, you wouldn't know that you're in Colombia. You would think you're in Nigeria. You would think you're in Africa. They kept their culture. They didn't lose it. As a matter of fact, we're the first independent African community. I'm not talking about Haiti being the first independent nation. I'm talking about community. They ruled themselves in Colombia and maintained their African culture till today. They're not rich. But man, when you go over there, when you talk to these people, they speak Spanish. But when you talk to them, you just feel proud to be African because for some weird reason, they maintain the core of their culture, food, religion, everything. The only thing lacking was the language part because of the heavy Spanish influence. where they were all forced to speak this language. But the core culture in this Black community in Colombia is one and the same with the African culture in the motherland. We need to build a nation based on our spiritual culture, based on the commonalities and similarities between all African peoples. We cannot be strong in Africa without being strong in our diasporal communities. And we cannot be strong in the diasporal communities without being strong in Africa. We must do it. When we talk about building this Africa that we want to see, we must include the diaspora nations because they are the greatest influence on the motherland. They are the villages. If the diasporal Africans start paying attention to Africa and insist on Africa's spiritual culture, traditions, tenets, and decide that they want to be part of this awakening process, that they want to be part of this nation formation and nation building, our greatness will suddenly jump out for the whole world to see.
You know what? We have to be proud, and I'm married to one.
Yeah.
To be proud of the African American community for what they have gone through and continue to rise.
Yeah.
They call them names, they whipped them, they did all kinds of things, but you see, that's a strong genes. They got that powerful genes. Still they rose. You can't hold a powerful person down if you try. You can't. And I'm not here to, please, if you go into certain forums, other people are talking about themselves, just so we understand. This is not Black folks talking about Black folks. No. Go to all the different racial forums. They're talking about themselves. They're talking about what is essential, why it's critical to uplift themselves. You see, the world is going God knows where, as you all know. The people who will survive are those who understand that it takes more than just one person to survive. We're going to need each other. And so we need to put our business on the table and talk about it. What happens when the ground shakes? What are we going to do? Other people are doing it. We're the only ones that when we talk about what's important to us, then somebody wants to say you're too radical. Stop being so radical.
They don't say that to the Hindus or
I'm
anybody
going to tell you
else.
something. If you're trying to survive, you better be radical.
Thank you.
If you jump into the water and there's some crocodiles, you're going to sit there and look at them and say, well, I wonder what they think of me. You better start kicking and get out of that water. Or you will be chopped liver. You will be made minced meat. This is where we are when we're trying to be so nice. We don't even talk about what is going on in our lives. We don't talk about our collective good. We talk about our different tribes. Who's this person? Is this person from Yoruba land or Hausa land or Igbo land? Is he Efik? Is he Black America? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where an African person comes from. What is important is that they are one of you and your survival is interconnected. We cannot leave our brothers and sisters because many of us, and I have to say this, I'm sorry, many of us, when we make it, we forget that when this ground shakes, they're going to leave you behind. Oh, you're going to have to come home, baby. Because when they start to survive, there's not enough for all of us. Who you think they're going to kick out? You. So it's not being radical to think that we must stop getting caught up in people's messes and focus on getting ourselves out of the mess we're in, or resist the temptation to be caught up.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? It is okay, my brothers and sisters, now to share this. It is okay to be radical. Not radical to be mean-spirited, not radical to be offensive, not radical to abuse others, but radical enough that you want to survive. and you find out how to do so as a collective. You know, that's one thing I love about Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa tells you, see, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Black folks, y'all don't. Now, some of you may have your opinion about Kwanzaa and all of that, but if you follow the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, that's your roadmap. Unity. What can go wrong with unity? Umoja. What can go wrong with that if we are unified front? If we're unified people, which is the problem, we're not. We see ourselves as Kenyans or Ugandans or Nigerians or Ethiopians. Or, you know, I had a lady, I said, she introduced herself. I said, I think you're Ethiopian. Yeah, she wanted to make sure that I didn't confuse her with another Eritrean. Does it matter? Does it matter? Why do you have to distinguish that I'm not Ethiopian, I'm not Eritrean, I'm Ethiopian? I didn't even say anything about being Eritrean, but you just wanted to let me know that Eritreans look like you too, but that you're different. See, all of that demarcations that have been put in front of us, that's practically the tool that's used to hold us back. That division. So unity is important. That's Kwanzaa principle number 1. Number 2, kujichagulia. Self-determination, allowing each other, seeing the good in each other and using that good to build us up, helping each other rise. That's an African principle. That's an African spiritual principle. Help allow your fellow human being to rise in whatever way they understand best. If they can do it, give them your support. That's the second principle of Kwanzaa. What's difficult about that? What is it that as African people we cannot get? Now, the third principle. What is the third principle? You have Kujika. Ujima. No, is that Ujima? Yes, Ujima is cooperative, is collective work and responsibility. Let me get that straight. Ujima, collective work. All of us working together, heading in the same direction. You know one thing, UD, and that's one of the things that I think is sad about us. We don't walk in the same direction. That's why you can see our streets filthy. And what do? We step over the dirt, the trash. We don't see if all of us came with a broom. We can create a clean path. We can create a clean environment by working together. Ujama, cooperative economics, working with each other. This is a blueprint. Cooperative economics, buy from me, I buy from you. Our money never is hardly spent in our communities. That's why you walk through a neighborhood and you think, oh, these are poor people. No. It doesn't take much to invest in our communities. Even if there's a little bitty shop in that community, go there and shop. Go there and shop. That little shop may employ some people. Donate some paint. If people can't afford in our community, donate some paint. Go as a collective and pay. Here's the thing, UD. The point I'm trying to make is we've got a blueprint. But we're not using it. These are part of our spiritual. Kwanzaa, quite frankly, is African spirituality.
Yep.
This is spiritually how we are supposed to conduct ourselves. Then you have Nia. Purpose. What is your purpose? Dozie, what is your purpose in this life? Why are you here? Our purpose in life is to ensure that we contribute to our societies, our communities, our race, positively, make positive impact. That's a blueprint. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. But that is our spiritual. People see it and they say, oh, it's cultural. It's not religious. It's spiritual. It's our cultural spirituality. That's what Kwanzaa is. Why are you here? If you can bring your brother or sister up, why are you not doing it? Why are you not doing it? Kuumba. Using your talents to make our communities better than you found it. Don't be the cause of the problem, be the solution. Use your talent. Are we talented people? Look at how talented people in every part of the world. If you go to TikTok, everybody wants to emulate you. The music, the dance, you name it. People want to be like you. But you.
It's sad.
If you use your talent, these our artists make billions of dollars. If they will invest a little bit of that. There's a Ugandan, I think he plays basketball, if I'm not mistaken. Basketball or football, I'm not sure exactly, and I don't remember his name. What he said was, they asked him, why is he not driving a big fancy car? He doesn't live in a fancy house. Why is he walking around with a broken phone? He said exactly what we say in our spirituality. Madu buchibeya.
You see?
Akum de no pani. My wealth lies in my community. He says, what use is it to me to have a fancy phone, a fancy car, a fancy house, and my community is deteriorated? They said there's no pride in that. So this multi-millionaire young African man will go to Africa and build schools and build hospitals.
He's a soccer player.
And he has a broken phone. That is kuumba.
Very selfless.
Imani, faith in ourselves. This is the blueprint, my brothers and sisters. This is it. There's nothing else you have to add other than understand that all this mix is the power, the glory of ChinEke working if we allow it, if we use it. Everything I just listed out is what ChinEke wants from us. Is it not? Is it not? I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
Is it not? So in my mind, the last thing is faith in ourselves, faith in our communities, faith in our people, faith that anything that we put our heart and our mind to do, that we can achieve it. It doesn't matter what part of African world you come from. We are one. Survival of the fittest is those who come together, like UD says all the time, to carry a powerful punch, to make a powerful punch. But when we all come together. So we must stop living a legacy of misery. They are good ideas in African way of life, African spirituality that we must re-embrace. It doesn't matter. Some Nigerian wanted to ask me, why do you celebrate Kwanzaa? I said, because an African person created Kwanzaa to remind us who we are and what we can do to rise from the gutter up to the mountaintop, to move from the valley up. Does it matter if he lived in Africa? He's an African man, and that's good enough.
It's not even a criticism of why you believe it. It's just the idea sometimes of those people that show a level of concern that they're not the ones that came up with this idea. So since you come up with this idea, now you seem like you've been elevated above them intellectually, and also you're standing in the community, and here they come with their naysays and why is this and why is that. I've experienced that stuff myself. I just wanted to say something real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but just to add to what you were saying and what I was saying, just in a couple of sentences. The core of Pan-Africanism is defined as the ability to give up a little bit of yourself for the good of the whole.
Yes.
That's Pan-African thinking.
Yes.
Right? We're not against anybody being from Uganda, Jamaica, Eritrea, whatever. These nations have boundaries they're created. It is what it is. But in terms of our collective struggle as people of African ancestry, no European will see a black person and ask you, are you Chinese? I mean, are you from Jamaica? Are you from Nigeria? Or are you from Senegal? They don't give a damn. All they see is a black person. That's all they see. They see some African. Now, you could not try to tell them where you come from. That's a different conversation altogether. But the idea behind what we're talking about in terms of umoja is we are all suffering from the same misery meted on us by our colonizer and our enslaver. Our experience is the same. You didn't suffer any more being abroad than those people in Africa. We suffered. That's one thing I want everybody to understand. Don't think because you're diasporan that you went through more hell than those in the motherland, or vice versa, because you didn't. If you think I'm lying, go ask the colliery workers in Nigeria that got shot to death, all 400 of them, just because they asked for equal pay. I mean, not equal pay, just for a little raise, because they were working for nothing. Or go ask the Congolese people that were amputated and castrated because they couldn't fill the quota.
Millions of them, millions.
You couldn't fill the quota of King Leopold of Belgium. They lynched you here in the West as much as they lynched you in Africa. There was lynching going on everywhere, both in the Bahamas, castrations, rape of our women, everything. None of us went through any more than the other. So we must consider our suffering as identical. And finally, for those of us that claim that we are woke, for those of us that claim that we understand, there's this problem that we have in this woke community where we cannot cooperate with one another, cooperative economics or whatever you want to call that. The idea that since you're woke, you want everybody to see the world through your woke lens, as opposed to coming together as people that have seen the light and saying, okay, how can we come together, bring our physical, monetary, and intellectual property for the good of the whole? That is the problem that is causing most of the misery that we have in our African communities globally. We need to come together, recognize that our suffrage is the same, and do something about it by working cooperatively to be able to resurrect our traditional, spiritual, and economic institutions that kept us cohesive and functioning before the European or the Arab came to our shores. Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing before I go to Dibias, let us, and I always like to emphasize that we are not anti anything or anti anyone, because somebody challenged me on that. We're not here to say that white people are bad or Asians are bad or whomsoever is bad. We're here to criticize actions that these groups have taken against us and how we must come out of it. You can't complain about what people did to you or are doing to you when you continue to allow it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to disagree with violence, but with common sense. Oh, come to my space with goodness, and I'll be the one to sing your song when you leave. But if you come into my space and preach all that nonsense about I'm not good enough and I have to believe in what you believe, that's why the hunchback of the camel will become your stay. You cannot preach love and practice hate.
Yeah.
See, it's a new day. We used to believe all those things because we had no means of doing research. Everybody, there are more people who can do research now thanks to the internet. You can say all your stuff and I can go and find out how you're really functioning with all your stuff. And then I can go and see, okay, how did my people do it? Now, let me emphasize that so that we don't get it all twisted. What Chiism is preaching is self-love, self-acknowledgement, and collective work and responsibility. That is what we are preaching. Respect for our culture, respect and honor for the Creator who made us, our ancestors, and definitely ourselves and our children. If we can't do that, all these other showboating thing with our scarves and our clothing and all that stuff we do, that is just nonsense. Like I said to one of our members, when you cook, when you show me your mama's food and it looks good and well decorated, but you don't want to eat it, then you're not proud of your mama's cooking. So
Yes.
when you don't want to practice African spirituality, the very foundation that your ancestors gave you, and you throw it away with the dirty bath of water, as we say in Igbo, Iwakola, Iwonyara, Chedozi.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Akula, yeah. We just have some few minutes to go, so let me hit it direct. There is something we need to look at. If our spirituality, we have to key back to our spirituality. That is the political structure that the colonialist has given to us.
Yes.
And the political structure is to destroy ethnicity and now make us, instead of us to interconnect, we are now anti ourselves.
Yes.
And divide and rule is what they used. And so for us to keep back, we have to structure ourselves back. And that's why I said our political leaders have to come back down from their high horses. They have to swallow their pride, because what the colonialists have made our political leaders as surrogates colonialists.
Yes.
And so they represent colonial culture. That is why they use the political leaders to determine who is going to be the traditional leader.
Yes.
That is harakiri. That is criminal. In England, the prime minister reports to the queen, to the monarch. The monarch does not report to the prime minister. So the English culture is intact. But in Africa, all over Africa, you see that the political leaders determine, just like as it was in the colonial time, they determine who is going to be the loyalist, who will be the traditional leader. If we were sitting on our cultural backgrounds, we would have integrated by now. For example, the current Oni of Ife had one time, that was about 2-3 years ago, said that the current Ife was founded by the Igbo, and the tradition of Ajay, which is Ako, was founded by the Igbo, and that Obatala is Obatala. He was an ark god of the Yorubas, was founded by the Igbo. He has Ichimax. It's even said in Ifa, Ifa addresses Obatala as Orisha Igbo. Even in the Ilesha area, Osun area, Ichimax have been found in so many of their mountains and rocks. But the political fathers had to shut him up. They should shut up, shut up. So anytime that the colonialists want to do their bid, they just fine-tune or whine the political leaders, and they divide us. Just like what happened recently in the Nigerian electoral process. So, but if we restructure what I call de-balkanization, return ourselves to pre-colonial standard, then whereby we will institute our traditional leaders by the principle of Ofonogu, embedded in our culture, then the real people will surface and become the foundation of our spirituality. Then we'll start building a unity. Our spirituality will gel. Once our spirituality gel, we will build connections across. But with this current Africa, the way it is, our political leaders will politicize everything, and before you know it, they monetize everything, bring capitalism into it, they destroy it, because that is the duty they have been sent. And I am just a lonely voice in the wilderness of these university scholars. The job of university scholars is to second what the religious fathers do in the churches and the mosques, and to back with the political leaders. That's what our universities are established for. So people like me are lonely voices crying in the wilderness. And so until we get it right, the structure right, I am afraid the Kwanzaa spirit will not gel, because the colonialist has deliberately created a structure that will not make it gel.
Yes.
That's my little...
You're very right, very right. And that's why we must fight. That's why we must fight for what works. You're very right. The objective is not for us to rise. It never was. The objective is for us to stay down, you know. But again, like I said earlier, you can't complain about what other people are doing if you allow it. At some point, somebody's got to take the initiative. And I think that's what this guy has done, you know, and that's what ChinEke is doing, to say, okay, listen, at some point we got to wake up. You know, we can't just be fussing about something. And we started in the homes, like teaching your children. And me and Yudi and my family, we are what we are today because my parents did that. You're what I'm saying. They did that. They raised us to be proud of who we are. We have never committed any crimes. I was nobody's baby mama until I got married. I had discipline. And my children have discipline. They were nobody's baby daddy or baby mama. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you start in your own home to put those African spiritual precepts in the minds of your children, in the minds of your family. And I'm telling you, once we're able to do that, you know, we're going to find that our lot will change, because it has to change. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, I wish we could stay any longer. We have overstayed our time. Thank you so very much. All of you who have joined, I can't call out all names, but all of you have been wonderful. Thank you for your contributions. And please be sure to leave your comments on African Spirituality ChinEke Live on YouTube, and also on ChinEke Live on Facebook page. Thank you all. I am looking forward, and I'm sure. Thank you, Dibias Yudi, and thank you, Dibias here for your massive contribution. And happy birthday, Ahain. Thank you for celebrating him with us today. So on that note, we look forward to seeing all of you next time. Please do not forget to share. It's so important to share. Sharing helps. Don't just watch and then go away. Share to your friends, your family, and be sure that we gathered here again next Saturday.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes.
No.